Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome. I think we have 1 more minute left, so we shall give those time as I share my screen, and then we shall proceed immediately. Um, Okay, thank you very much. It is 9 o'clock, so we shall begin on time as usual so that we can save the time. And I want to welcome you so much to this session. And especially, I want to say thank you very much for sticking with it and being part of the course. Until now, we have come to the last module and therefore the last webinar session. So I want to thank all of you who have been faithful in coming in each week, always on time, always contributing. I know that there are very many of you who have now reached the end and you have never said a word in these 8 sessions. And so I'm encouraging you that today I hope that you will try and say something so that we can hear your voice. So our last session is like a wrap-up session. And when you go into the module, and some of you have already completed the module, but when those of you who have not go into the module, you will realize that scope of impact is like a wrap-up of everything that has been said before, that we have been talking about week after week. And so the module is meant to help us to reflect and to think about what is the kind of impact that I am making. When I'm talking about human rights, when I'm talking about gender equality, am I still looking at it as a men versus women thing, or have I moved to a place where I understand that gender equality is something that would be useful for everybody, and that without gender equality, we're talking about violation of human rights? So think about this module as a wrap-up module. So if we go into it directly, when we are aiming for scope of impact, impact means how are we making a difference? How are we trying to ensure that there is something that has changed from where a certain organization or an individual or a community or even a government, where they were and up to where they're going to reach? So we are measuring change, and change is measured so that we can understand, have we made a difference in people's lives? And globally, it is, of course, extremely complex to measure that change, because you're talking about countries, you're talking about cultures, you're talking about traditions, you're talking about laws and regulations that are very different across the globe. And so how do we ensure that if we are saying that there is a set of standards, how are we measuring these standards and how do we know where we are? So if you look at some of the guiding documents that you have looked at in the different modules, you have looked at several guiding documents that are supposed to be leading us to global impact. Now, these guiding documents precede the current guiding document, which is the Sustainable Development Goals. But when you look at CEDAW, when you look at the Beijing Platform for Action, these are documents that were the first documents universally to talk about specifically women's rights and women's empowerment. And these documents have never lost their relevance. They are still like a guidepost for everything that is being done in terms of empowerment, in terms of gender equality. Because these documents specify that unless we are taking women on board in development procedures, in development decisions, then we are always going to have an imbalanced world. And so these two documents were also considered when we were developing the SDGs. And we have the SDGs put them in cartoon form on the side of the slide. But we have the 17 SDGs with one specific SDGs, which is SDG 5 on gender equality, that is very specific to the issue of women's empowerment and gender equality. But all of the SDGs, if we were to meet the requirements and the indicators for these SDGs, then you find that in many cases, they will be able then to allow for gender equality. When, for example, we say that people must have suitable working conditions, when people say that people must have education, if we take that everybody is going to school, whether they're male, whether they're female, all boys and girls are getting at least 12 years of basic education, then that automatically adds to the gender equality indicator. But if you have situations where, like last week, we said that in Nigeria, 20 million children are not going to school, then it is impossible to achieve gender equality, because this means that there is a great disparity. In a country where 20 million children are not going to school, it also means that they're not going to school because of conflict, which means that those ones who the parents are more afraid of sending into the conflict are girls. And so they miss out on education. When you bring religious restrictions, it means, again, the girls are missing out on education. So the SDGs can be met, but the SDGs cannot be met in isolation. And so going back to my first point on how difficult it is to measure global impact, what has been done is that several global measures have been developed to measure this impact. Now, one of these is the Global Gender Parity Index, the GGPI, and it's used to address gender dimensions in key areas of human development. If we are looking at education, what is the gender gap or gender disparity in education? What is the gender gap in terms of economic participation, political participation? That is what the Global Gender Parity Index measures. So it's saying, where is the world at? If we are saying that the world has achieved 70% educational attainment, yes, 70% is a good figure, but where are women and where are men? Are they getting the benefits of that education so that it is equitable? Then the next one is the Women's Empowerment Index, which measures women's power and freedom to make choices. Can women make choices? Yes, they are able to go to school. Can they make choices about subjects? Or are they told, no, that subject is only for boys? Does a boy want to take a certain subject and told, no, you can't do that because it is for girls? And so therefore, the Women's Empowerment Index looks at, do they have the power and the freedom to make choices? Do I have rights over my body so that when I want to go for reproductive health services, I'm able to access those reproductive health services without having to ask my husband or my spouse to allow me to go to the hospital to make those choices? So that is what the Women's Empowerment Index measures. I'm going to encourage you, Samsung SMA, please could you hide your video? You're a bit distracting. There's somebody who is walking. Anyway, let me just stop the video myself. Kindly, if you have your video on, please sit down and not be walking about. Thank you so much. So the Women's Empowerment Index measures women's power and freedom to make choices. Please read about the others in the module. I will not take the time to go through all of them. They're in the module. They're very well explained. So remember that we are saying that with global impact, we are trying to see how is the world doing. And this is very difficult to do because, as I said, every country is on a different development plane. Every country has different laws and regulations. And so we bring in documents such as the SDGs to ensure that, are we able to get to where we are? Are we trying as a common global community to get to a certain level so that no matter what your regulations are, you will see that if I am not meeting the SDG goals, what is it I need as a country to put more effort into? What is it as a country that I've already achieved, and therefore we can say we have met these particular SDGs? There are countries that have met, for example, educational attainment goals. No country in the world has met the gender equality goals, but many countries are near or have met the educational attainment. When it comes to things like political participation, economic participation, there are variations throughout the countries. So what we use is called indicators. Indicators help us to measure and to show performance or achievement. Now, we are saying, for example, that we have a goal on gender equality. That goal has got specific indicators that will help us to see whether we have actually achieved gender equality. So when we are talking about, for example, an indicator on technology that falls under gender equality SDG, there are certain very clear performance indicators or achievement indicators that will help us to see that we have actually met the goal or the indicator for technology under gender equality. So they are used to, indicators are used to help us to see there's a policy or a program. Is it being implemented the way it was planned? If you had said, for example, if you're working in an NGO and you have said that in this year, we're going to achieve 1,000, we're going to reach 1,000 women and girls with information about sexuality education. Let's say that's an indicator. It helps us to see at the end of the planned period, has this implementation actually been, has this actually been achieved? Were we able to reach these people with the messages that we wanted them to get? We also want to see with an indicator whether we achieved any change. In other words, was there a difference? People did not have information, now they have this information. And to what extent is this information useful to them? And to what extent is this information harmful to them? So that's the third one. Were there any unintended impacts, results, or consequences? In other words, by implementing a certain activity or a program or a policy, did we make a change? And was this change for the better? Was this change, did it make a difference in people's lives? And if it did, was it a good change or was it a bad change? And this helps us to say that if it was a good change, can we improve on it or can we scale it up more people? If it was a bad change, how can we go back to our indicators, back to our planning and change what we had planned? So indicators are useful for monitoring and evaluation. They are neutral. They don't say whether a change will be good or bad, but they are simply used to measure. Like if we say 1,000 women and girls will be reached with comprehensive sexuality education information, we are not saying bad or good. We are just simply saying this is what we are going to do. And so they are neutral in terms of their expression. They can be quantitative or they can be qualitative. We can say 1,000 women and girls, but we can also say 50% more women and girls will be reached with the same kind of information. So if we had 100 last time, we can put it as a percentage and say we shall reach 50% more people so that next time we reach 150 people. Results may be positive, negative, or unintended. And we use disaggregated data as the minimum standard. You cannot have indicators where you are not looking at gender disaggregated or sex disaggregated information, because otherwise you will not be able to measure the change that has been achieved. So they have to have disaggregated data as the bare minimum standard. Kindly please stop changing anything. Somebody has said, changed my caption language. Kindly do not touch the apps or the remote controls. Just if you want to put something in chat, you're welcome to do it. But someone has just changed the caption settings. I hope it was Sandy. See, no, Sandy is not in this meeting. So one of you has just touched something that you have changed some settings. Kindly don't do that. Thank you. So when we are using indicators, when we are using indicators, we said that we are trying to measure certain things. Now, I want you to look at this table that we have. If you look at indicators that are being used to measure impact, we may have a certain goal that we want to have in our program. This goal may be efficiency. In other words, we are doing things in a really sustainable manner. We are doing them in a manner that does not waste resources. Our goal may also be effectiveness, in that we are making positive and lasting changes. We may be talking about impact. We are seeking to change the lives of people. And then we are also looking at sustainability. When we have left the implementation area, will this still be going on? Now, a project may have one or more of these goals. It may have all four. It may have less than those four. It may even have other goals. These are just simply examples. So when an activity is being implemented, we're at the bottom. If you look at the bottom row of the table, first we implement activities. And these activities are trying to see, for example, the example that I'm using here is that we are looking at number of government or institutional staff trained in gender responsive policies and strategies. And I want you to note something very important. It is talking about male, female, persons with disability. In other words, our data is disaggregated to find out, do we have males in this program? Do we have females in this program? We have persons with disabilities. We want to set an activity that is going to impact on all of these groups. So our activity, when we want to say that is our indicator, is the number of government or institutional staff trained, then we talk about an activity where we ask ourselves, did we use the right tools? Did we use the right training materials? Did we have the correct policy documents? Did we do a needs assessment? Are we analyzing the results by sex, by gender, by persons with disability? In other words, when we are asking a question about training materials, for example, then we are saying that my indicator says male, female persons with disability. I look at my training materials and ask, are these training materials suitable for the men that are coming for the training? Are they suitable for the women coming for the training? Are they suitable for persons with disabilities? What adaptations will we have to make to avoid stereotyping? What adaptations will we have to make? For example, if we know that we have done needs assessment and somebody with low vision is coming into the training. For example, the course that you are currently taking, we know that we have people from different areas of the world. And specifically, we have people who speak, for example, Portuguese, and they may not be very fluent in English. So what have we done in order to make sure that as government, as institutional staff, they are also included? We provide them with the materials in English, and we ask them to have them translated into Portuguese. Our accessibility is such that the language that is used, and that's why I'm a bit upset about the person who has changed the language settings, is that the language that is used can be set to any other language so that somebody who is not familiar with English is also able to follow through. Then we ask ourselves as an indicator of success, is there any change in knowledge, skills, and attitudes? That is an activity, but our activity is not what we need to measure long-term outcome. So we look at an indicator that measures something more concrete. Look at the indicator in the first row. This is the proportion of institutional staff, that is male, female persons with disabilities, reporting improved capacity to implement gender responsive policies and strategies. In other words, we are saying that you were trained, yes, you go away, then what? So this course, for example, has given you training. After that training, then we would like to follow up and find out, has it made any changes in the way in which you work? Has it made any changes in the way in which you interact with people? Has it made any change in understanding of the way in which policy, strategies, and programs are being reviewed and implemented? Because we have trained you, we want to see that as an activity. But after that, then an outcome would be, have you made any difference in your world? Whether your world is at an individual level, at an organizational level, or at a government level. That is when we would say that an indicator is having an impact, or that the outcome can then be seen over the long term. Then if we want to measure beyond indicators, we would come back to you maybe in 3 or 4 years and ask you, hey, Mary, we trained you on ABCD. John, we trained you in gender and equality. And after 5 years, are you still using some of the information? After 3 years, are you still using some of this information? So this is what we talk about when we say scope of impact. As I said before, that global impact is something that cannot be measured on unless we have a common set of indicators to understand that impact. And that is why currently we're using the SDGs. And we're using different global measures. I've only mentioned two. There are very many others. We are using certain global measures to understand whether we are progressing towards the goal that we expect for SDG 5. Then we use indicators to tell us, are we able to achieve or perform what it is that we had said? And indicators are neither telling us positive or negative. We are simply using these indicators, quantitative or qualitative, to be able to express whether there is a measurement or performance. And so when we talk about the use of indicators, we want to see that there is success. This success comes from activities. This success comes from outcomes. Have we changed anything in terms of our knowledge and skills and attitudes? Have we changed anything in the way we work? Have we changed anything in terms of documents so that we can know that we are looking at outcomes? Now, I just want to pause for a second and look at what is in chat because I can see increasing messages from chat. So in case I'm missing anything, well, I think everybody's sorted because it's greetings. People are greeting each other. That's okay. There was one person who could not hear the audio. I hope you can hear it now. So let us move on to the next item. When we are looking at impact for change, now this is just a summary of what I'm saying. Change can be on 3 different levels. And when we are taking action in any form, we are going to be looking at these 3 levels. The first one is the micro level. Micro meaning small. And micro level has got 2 ways in which it works. That is at the individual level and at the interpersonal level. Individual meaning I change my own attitudes, my own cultural beliefs. If I find that they are not working towards gender equality, I question them, I examine them, and then finally I have a behavior change. Excuse me. So when I begin to know that something is not correct, how is it that I myself, I am changing myself, but it is not enough to just change myself. What do I tell other people? How do I interact with other people? And so change comes from an individual level and goes to the micro level at an interpersonal level. But when we move from the interpersonal and move into communities and organizations, this is called the meso level. Meso is like middle level. And here is where it is not enough for me to understand about gender equality and women's empowerment, but I want to mobilize others. I want to go into advocacy, to try to talk to my community members, to try to talk to my organization, that there is a better way in which we can treat men and women so that we can move towards gender equality. We can make sure that we are not violating people's human rights. And then finally, there's what we call the macro level. And this is where we can then influence at policy, legislative, and national environment. Many governments have enacted laws that are supposed to help countries move towards gender equality, trying to ensure that there is affirmative action, trying to ensure that there is no discrimination in terms of inheritance, in terms of access to resources, to education, to healthcare. At this policy level, therefore, then when a country is moving, it means that the policies then come back down, right, to make a change in the individual's lives. Please read more about the levels of impact and look at the explanation for this diagram within your module. So in other words, if we were just to summarize, the scope of impact that has the biggest impact, or the biggest scope for impact, I would put it that way, the biggest scope for impact is not at policy level. It is not at organizational level. It is at individual level. In other words, each one of you, if you challenge yourself to look at your attitudes, to look at your knowledge, to change your attitudes if they are not correct, to try to see everybody as a human being. And I think that is one thing that I've been emphasizing throughout. To look at everybody as a human being, then it means that our behavior changes towards other people. And we recognize that I am important, the other person is also important. That means that if all of us are important, the community is important, the organization is important, the nation or the government is important. And that means that everybody makes the right changes towards gender equality and empowerment. So I want to move to a short question and answer session. We have done a lot of things in this course. We have learned a lot of things. We have moved from looking at human rights. We have talked about poverty. We have talked about violations. We have talked about legislation that is there, documents that are there to help move towards gender equality. And the truth of the matter is, for sure, the world is still looking at more than 200 years towards gender equality. And this is because we are dealing, as we have said, with individuals who may not have the right attitudes, who may not have the right knowledge, who may not even be able to change their behavior because they do not understand what it is that we are talking about in terms of gender equality and women's empowerment. But you have gone through a course. You have gone through 7 modules and now the 8th module that helps you to sort of look at your attitudes, your culture, and your behavior and see what is my scope for changing this. But throughout this course also, there are many things that we may not have discussed. There are many things that we have not had time even to look at because it's just one course and it's just 8 weeks. It takes a long time to get our heads around gender and gender equality. So I want to just take a few minutes, like maybe 10 minutes, and invite you, if you have any questions about the course, about gender equality, about some of the issues that you may have read, about even the module that we have just presented, I want to welcome you right now. We can have a short, I will pause my share. I will just pause my share here and invite you if we have any questions, any comments that people would like to be able to raise. We are free to do so. There's one in chat. Let me just look at that. Thank you, Jessie, for saying this is an excellent course. Thank you so much. Anyone wishes to raise their hand and ask a question? Okay. That is interesting. I thought there would be a lot of questions about gender equality, some of the issues that maybe you have, that I see on the WhatsApp that maybe are not answered. Thank you, Rhoda, for your chat message. Okay, since we have no questions, I have a question.
No, sorry.
Okay, now sorry. The questions are coming because the facilitator was about to start asking very hard questions. Okay, let's see your hand so that I can know who to pick on. Well, okay, George, you go first and then Soila.
Thank you very much for recognizing me. My hand was up for some time now.
Sorry, I was not seeing. Yes.
Yeah. So my question or my comment goes on the data collection, whereby you indicated that when we are collecting data, we need to indicate either male or female, and probably persons with disabilities. Now, my question or my worry is on the persons with disabilities, such that are we going to have a special column for persons without disabilities, and regarding them as male and the females, and also another column for persons with disabilities, segregating them as the male and females as well? Or how do we go about that?
Thank you. Thank you. That's an excellent question. Usually what you would do is that you have your, if for example, if you have people coming into a workshop or you're going out into the community, Then you have a column for male, female. Some you may have other, or you may have prefer not to say, depending on the setting in which you are working on. And then you have a column for persons with disabilities. So I will enter my name. For example, if I'm the participant, I'm entering my name, Karen, and then I say I am female. And then if I have a disability, I tick on the disability column. So it is not like we're having a whole separate sheet for persons with disability, because then that would be a form of discrimination. So if I don't have a disability, then I don't tick that column. So my column would show Karen, female, then under persons with disability, I have ticked. Thank you very much, George, for that. Soila?
Thank you very much for the course. This being our last session, I just wanted to know, we've learned a lot. It has actually changed the way we're interacting with the society.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be our interaction with Girls Inspire and Commonwealth of Knowledge going forward?
Okay, this is what I'm not sure under the context of the question. So maybe what do you mean by interaction? Let us clarify.
Just to clarify on interaction, like is this going to be an ongoing kind of group? Are we going to get more knowledge through this forum? Yeah, just what does the future look like for those who've taken the courage to be in this team?
Okay. Oh, thank you, Soila. I think I will answer that question by saying that the Commonwealth of Learning, by the way, it's a Commonwealth of Learning. The Commonwealth of Learning offers a lot of online courses, and all of them are free. So this is one of the courses that is offered by the Girls Inspire initiative. There are also courses that are offered under teacher education that are not just for teachers. They are suitable for everybody. For example, courses on cybersecurity, courses on monitoring and evaluation. There are courses that we conduct on leadership, on women. There is in fact, I will post this. Yes, thank you, Soila. Now that has reminded me, I will post there is a poster for a webinar that is coming up on women and leadership. And that would be also an excellent space for you to also ask, when is the next course on women and leadership? Because it's an excellent course. And so the Commonwealth of Learning continually runs programs. And so what I would encourage you to do is to continually go onto our website, and you're able to find courses that you're able to do. In the next planned period, because we offer courses in a year. And so this planned period is coming to an end at the end of June. And so we hope that in the next planned period, we'll be able to offer this course to a new set of people. But we also want to start up a course on voice engagement, because it is becoming a huge issue. And we are currently planning a course that we hope to be able to offer even if not very early within the next planned period, but at least by November or December. So yes, courses are always there, and the Commonwealth of Learning has got loads of courses, which, as I've said, they're always free. You will never pay for a course from the Commonwealth of Learning, and you will always get a certificate. Thank you, Soila. Pamela, you have something to ask? Pamela, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sorry, I just wanted to appreciate you for being, I felt very impressed with being part of the cohort. And I just wanted to ask that some of my friends are jealous and they're asking when the next cohort will be offered.
Yes.
Lots of knowledge that I've gained from here. Many thanks. I'll be looking out to your website to register for some courses. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, we shall let you know when the cohort is the next cohort is, because as I've said, it's going to be within the next planned period. Thank you so much. All right, great. Any questions, comments, observations? Soila, I don't know whether your hand is still up with another question, or your hand is just still up.
Oh, sorry, my hand is still up, but not for a different question. But now that you've given me this chance again, about the space that we have with the Moodle, are we still going to interact with that material, or is it going to disappear now that the course has ended?
The course will close. This is because we cannot have, if we have the course left open, it means that people would keep on joining, and we are not going to issue certificates until we have closed the entire course, because these certificates are going to be signed by the president of the Commonwealth of Learning, and we cannot expect that signature, because each time the signature is used, we have to ask for permission. So this cannot extend indefinitely. So the course will still close. But I believe that if you have wanted, because our materials are what we call open access, they're accessible to you at any time, which means that if you needed to, you have already downloaded the PDF version of it. Assuming that some people have done that. So you could have downloaded, you could have downloaded the PDF version of the notes, and they will be available to you. What will be closed is the discussion forums, the material that is being posted. For example, these videos that we are uploading, you will not, after some time, you will not be able to access you'll not be able to click on the link and access the recordings, because again, that for security reasons, we close it after a while. So by the end of the course, then we have until the 24th. And I think this is important for those who may not have finished the course. You have until the 24th to complete your course. After that, then regrettably, we shall have to close so that we can issue certificates to those who have completed. Those who have not completed by the 24th, you will get your certificate with the badges, but then you will not be able to get the certificate of completion. So it doesn't mean that if you have done only one module by now, you're going to go away with nothing. You're still going to go away with the certificate. Am I right, Sandy, or not? Sandy? I believe that Sandy was on the call, but maybe she's not. Okay.
Good evening.
Okay, good evening.
So I want to say thank you for these courses. It was very important for me. Thank you, call team. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Samsung SMA 155, since I don't have your name, unfortunately, I have to call you by your phone. You have your hand raised.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would really like to appreciate the course, and I would like to emphasize on you having a course that will teach us more to empower a boy child. In my place, I work at the Gender and Child Protection branch, but most of the cases I see us talking about women and a girl child, and there's a big gap which we have to fill, because at the same time as we are talking about gender equality, we have to consider the boy child also. And I would really like to appreciate that you have equipped us with the information that we needed, and we will pass it to our workers, to everybody in Lajen Botswana. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that. Remember that we have said that we hope to be able to offer a course, but I want us to reach also a place where we do not feel that empowering one gender is disempowering the other gender. And that is something that I would look at from, as I said, the human rights perspective. When we talk about human rights violations or discrimination, we are talking about a space where women are still the disadvantaged gender. And this is borne out by the facts and figures throughout. Like if we take your country, Botswana has got an excellent, it is one of, I think it is just following Namibia in terms of the gender parity indexes. It is following Namibia in terms of the development indexes. It is following it in terms of educational attainment. But when you look at certain parts of the country of Botswana, you find that if in many of the areas, there are still disadvantages where you will find that girls, especially in rural and marginalized communities, are still very much left behind. Why? Because of cultural expectations. And so therefore, let us remember that because we are saying we are empowering girls, it does not mean that because I empowered this particular girl, this one girl, then the boy that was sitting next to her in class is disadvantaged. That boy is not thrown out of school because this girl is in school. There is space for both of them. And that emphasis is what we want to remember, that there is space for everybody. And the fact that this course is based on looking at women's empowerment and girls, it is like, let me use a funny example. When you are in school, if you were supposed to be doing a maths lesson, and the geography teacher came in, you know it's time for mathematics, and the geography teacher came in, it becomes very confusing if the geography teacher insists that she is teaching maths or he is teaching maths. They are saying, I am teaching you maths, but they're talking about the continent of Africa, the continent of Asia, and you will be very confused. In other words, we can only talk about certain things within the course. Otherwise, this course would last for 2 years if we were to try and tackle everything. So thank you very much. Next time, we shall have these courses, hopefully the 2 courses running together. You who have taken the one on women's empowerment, you can take the one on men's engagement. Then we have, now, who's the next person? Administrator guest. Administrator, your hand is raised. Okay, George, would you like to go ahead? You have another question?
Yes, thank you again for recognizing me for the second time. Out of interest sake, suppose we are having a meeting or an activity whereby we have invited both men and the women. Maybe in the process of having that an activity, you have really identified someone as to be either a male or a female, but he or she insisted to be the opposite side. I don't know whether you are getting me. For instance, a woman,
yes,
you are seeing that person as a woman, but that woman is willing to be identified as a male part. How do you handle that scenario when it comes to registration and also when it comes to reporting? Because I understand that we tend to use this data for making an informed decision. You are understanding that this is a female person, but she wants to register as a male person. Have you ever have that scenario, and how can we handle that? Thank you, and over.
Okay, excellent question, George. And my answer to you is a question. You said that this person insists on identifying. You have identified them as something, and they insist on being identified as something else. Let me ask you this question. Whose identity is it? Whose identity is it?
Yeah, actually, it has to be for the other person. But for instance, I'm seeing you as a female person, having all features of a female person, but you want to be identified as a male person.
Yes.
Can that be confusing in terms of data capturing, as well as or when it comes to making informed decision?
No, I'm saying that it can only be confusing for the person who wishes to misidentify, because if a person has said that this is my identity, they have that right to the identity. And this is why we said also that when we are referring to persons, it is easier when you say they than when you say he, her, or she, him, because the identity of a person is personal. And I may not agree with that kind of identity. I may be looking at you and say, you look like a woman, you're identifying as a man. I may not agree with it. Maybe culturally, religiously, just my own ignorance and all that. I may have that. But it is that person's right. Remember, human being, human rights. They have a right to an identity and freedom of autonomy. So that is their right, no matter what I may feel or I may think. And so therefore, if the person writes their name, I write my name as Karen, and you're thinking I'm going to tick on the column that says female, and I tick on the column that says male. That's okay. that's okay, because then you will count that we had, if you are thinking we're going to have 9 females and 10 males in the training, then you would say we have 8 females and 11 males. It is the person's own choice, and we cannot impose an identity on somebody. It is their own choice. That is the whole basis of human rights, that no matter how uncomfortable they make us feel, no matter how much we do not agree or find it strange, that person has a right to be autonomous. Autonomy meaning that they are a separate, complete human being from anybody else. Thank you so much. I see 2 hands. I'm not sure whether they're still up. Samsung, I wish I knew your name. I'm finding it so strange to say Samsung. Samsung, are you asking a question? Okay. Administrator, your hand is still up. I'm going to lower that hand. Anne Assay, you have a question?
Thank you, Karen. I just want to comment on the course, how it went through. Yeah, it's been quite interesting, and I think the interest is the way the course is made in such an organized and a simple way that you feel like, oh, I should proceed with this next. I should proceed with the next module. You know, the flow is quite good, and the videos were quite simple. The material was quite nice within people's understanding. Even if you don't know gender, you could still resonate well with the course. So I thank you for that, and I hope the next course will be that nice, that well organized and flowing. Yeah, thank you. I think, in online learning, people tend to sleep and the rest, but it's a course you may not tend to sleep much. You are always awake. Yeah, so I thank your team for that good order in the learning and the material production. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anne. Thank you for finding the course quality. I believe that one of the things that we really strive for at the Commonwealth of Learning is to set an example also for the courses that are being held, so that we can always ensure that we impact people as much as possible. I want to stop the sharing now, because we are about to finish. We are not left with so much time, so I want to resume a share. Thank you, administrator, for clapping for us. Let me just see what is to be on chat. When is the next training? I think we have said that. We are informed. Rhoda Amolo says she never made it to the WhatsApp group. You have missed a lot. That is all I can tell you, because you're asking what you missed. You have missed a lot. Thank you, everyone. Kaweko is asking, I have a question on the gender analysis matrix. What does it mean on resources column? Because labor is also a resources. How are those resources different from labor? Now, thank you, Kaweko, for your question. I think I will go into the course and answer the question for you, because I do not have the benefit right now of looking at that resources column. And so it's a little bit hard for me to see what you're saying, and then I can respond to you on the WhatsApp group. Okay. Women have been empowered, and there are a lot of projects for women. Why are women? Pearl is asking. Women have been empowered. There are a lot of projects for women. Why are women still not coming out in numbers for leadership like men do? And Pearl, I would like to say that everything is a process. And if you look at governments throughout the world, if you look at organizations throughout the world, leadership is changing a lot. Yes, we have a lot of gaps, and especially in terms of leadership, but there are also changes. And empowerment is not an overnight thing, because empowerment also works within a setting. Now, I'll give an example of political participation. When it comes to political participation, very many women stand up for primaries or stand up in order to be elected. But many of them face so many hurdles in terms of getting into that political position, that their morality, their affiliation, their you know, the way in which they are told that, how did you get to this position? Sometimes even outright violence that women face in terms of political participation. When it comes to leadership in organizations, there is a lot of empowerment that we still have to do for women, because there are times that a woman may be very fully qualified and she may be even invited for an interview, but she does not know how to sell herself. And she does not know how to push for that, because in our minds, we have been stereotyped to say that as a woman, don't be pushy. As a woman, don't put yourself forward. Just do the good things you're doing and then let people see for themselves. Sometimes people don't see for themselves and you've got to put yourself out there. And so there is a lot that has to do with leadership. But I'm encouraged because in very many situations, even in situations where culturally, maybe women were not taking up traditional leadership, for example, you find that there are so many places that women have now become empowered enough and are going into it, and they're able to become leaders. Is there any platform where we can find our current batch and previous batch in community in one place? Oh, yes. I want to say, Stuti, you had a question about where you can find the current batch. You may not be able to join the previous gender empowerment group, because each group has their own WhatsApp, but your WhatsApp group will not close for the time being. Maybe Sandy will make a decision on this when it will close, but I know, for example, that the other cohorts, we have had 3 other cohorts, their groups are still active even 1 year later. So Stuti, you have still opportunity to talk within your group. Okay. Does Commonwealth of Learning offer scholarships? No, Commonwealth of Learning is not a scholarship organization. Commonwealth of Learning is a capacity building organization. So kindly go, this is HP, kindly go to our website and see the work that we do. It will help you to understand. We are an intergovernment organization that works at government level, at institutional level, and at community level. Okay. Now, I want to go to the last one because I think we are almost time, and I want to finish with my last slide. People who have, thank you. Now, one of the things that I would like to appreciate even as we finish is Sandy. I don't know whether you people have found Sandy useful, but for me, she has been the glue that has held this course together. I know that she's not participating in the WhatsApps, I mean in the Zoom sessions, but Sandy has been to me the person who has held this course together, pushed you, poked you, helped you with your questions, helped you with everything that perhaps did not go right, and you had so many questions. And I really want to appreciate Sandy's work. So thank you very much for the chat. Thank you very much for participating. I can see more and more chat is coming up, but we have to finish because our time is about to end. And so thank you for your questions. Let's just briefly say, remember that when we are talking about anything in gender, this is just to summarize what we have done in the whole course. But when we are dealing with anything that comes with gender equality, we need to go back to our values and clarify those values. We need to think about our values in terms of what do we think about gender equality. And we have now gone through awareness training. This is this course. It has raised for you awareness, and it has also raised for some of you a desire to go ahead and do studies in gender. You can find so many different courses. And right now, with the world opening up, go into your browser, Google up free courses in gender and equality. You will find a host of courses, some of them on Coursera, on Google Learning, on Udemy. There are these courses that you can take in terms of gender, and you can also enroll into a formal course in a university or a college. Then what did our awareness training is supposed to help us clarify our values and perceptions, trying to help us think differently about women's empowerment. And when we are talking about women's empowerment, the goal is not just to say, okay, women are empowered. The goal is gender equality, so that with gender equality, we can realize human rights for all. Right now, the world is completely imbalanced in terms of gender equality. No matter what you may believe about empowerment for the boy, empowerment for men. No matter what you may think about it, if you go into data, if you go into information, you will realize that the world is a very gender inequitable place. And the gender that is usually at the bottom overall is the women and the girls. But when we are able to move everybody forward, then we shall attain human rights for all. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I want to finish with 2 slides. Since it's the last one, we're going to have 2 slides. So the first one is from the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is the head of the Buddhist community. And he says, just as ripples spread out when a single pebble is dropped in water, the actions of individuals can have far-reaching effects. You may think that you're not going to make a difference, but you are one person who is now more aware of what are the issues that have to do with human rights. Use your awareness, because that use of your awareness, when you do something, it can have far-reaching effects. When you just even share with one more person that there is a way in which human rights or stereotypes or discrimination is impacting on gender equality, then you're going to make a difference that you cannot know where that impact reaches. And then another one that I like is from Socrates. And Socrates said that the unexamined life is not worth living. This is simply a challenge to all of us to look at our lives and look at your own beliefs, your own attitudes, your own stereotypes, your own knowledge, and your own behavior, and say, am I doing the best that I can, not just for myself, to understand myself as a person with a gender identity and be proud of my gender identity and be proud of my capabilities and be able to look at the things that I am not doing well and to do them well. And this is what Socrates means, that it is simply look in the mirror in order to look at yourself and say, is my life worth living because I'm making a difference? So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have exactly 15 seconds. And I want to say thank you very much for all your participation. I want to thank you so much. Rhoda, you need to get in touch with Sandy so that she can add you to the WhatsApp group. Otherwise, once I close this session, then I don't have access to your chat. So kindly get in touch with Sandy. If you have any issues or comments, you can also put them in the WhatsApp group so that we can close this session. Thank you very, very much, and goodbye, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.